I feel that when I agreed to join this wagon party, I was completely deceived as to the health risks to which I would be exposed when on the trail. As I sit here, I can feel my body engaged in the struggle to fend off untold diseases. I know that as we stand at trail's end, more than a few tense moments have passed. My manner can be short at times, can even offend, but given my vast knowledge, you must take the good with the less than good.
We finally made it. In my whole life, I ain't never felt so drop-dead tired and ready to jump and kick up my feet. Way I see it, it's pretty easy for a person to say all they done right if they were leader. Well, for all I know, if I'd been leader, we'd be worse off. Guess to be a leader, a fellow's got to know what needs to be done, when to do it, who's to do it. My head already's hurting.
We got a new cow today and didn't pay a penny for her. We found her bellowing by the roadside, left for lame. The bottoms of her feet were so bloody and sore, she could barely take a step, poor thing. I scraped out the infection with my pocket knife, washed her feet, and sealed the wounds with tar. Then I cut up some scraps of hide, punched holes in them, and laced them to her feet. She likes her new slippers, and she'll be right as rain after a day or two of healing. I call her Socks. I'd say the name suits her. Before we left home, folks told us that out west there was tillable farmland as far as the eye could see, free to anyone willing to work hard and risk the trip to claim it.
I myself am suspicious of men who say they are content. Certainly, they must know that the next person who comes along may have pockets lined with money. No, they're not content. They're lazy. Yes, it's true that we began this journey as rank strangers. Yet I look upon you now as a member of the family. After you have settled into your new home, dear friend, and you need provisions or advice, please know that you can rely upon me. Had I been elected leader of this party, I can only imagine how much further along and how much smoother our journey would have gone by this time. Leadership starts with character, and I am full of it.
What does you say, I wonder? I got me this book. Sometimes I just take it out and look at it. One day, I'm gonna learn me to read and write, and then I'm gonna read all I can find about that place called Africa. Yep, I'm gonna learn me about that place. You hear the news? Only white folks gonna be allowed to stay in Oregon. They say the minute we get there, they're gonna tell us to move on. White folks get to start them up a new life, but we got to move on. I don't understand it. Ain't there no place on this earth we can just be?
Chores, chores, chores. Seems like that's all we do. I reckon I have to do more than most. I walked all day driving cattle, and then at nooning I went half a mile for water. There was hardly any time to eat before we was off again. The only good thing was that the girls visited with us as we walked. Some of them girls are real pretty, and friendly too. I was riding on ahead today when I met some Indians. They was wearing some pretty fancy clothes, and they was as friendly as you please. They came back to camp, and some folks traded with them. I bought a buffalo skin to keep me warm at night. Some folks are afraid of the Indians, but we found them to be right civil. I wonder what they think of us. I cooked supper tonight. I made a whole mess of beans sweetened with molasses. Put bacon in it, too. Made it just the way Mother showed me. And I reckon folks thought it tasted pretty good. Wish we had one of Mother's apple pies to follow it, though.
Sure, I never imagined I would be spending me days tramping over such dry, barren countryside. I thought America was a land of milk and honey, a land where the grass grows lush and the cattle are fat. Never in me wildest dreams did I think I'd be crossing such great empty deserts and dusty prairies. I'm thinking that no man would come this way if he knew the hardships and struggles waiting for him. Ah, this Oregon must be a fine place, or I'm a half-witted loon for going to all this trouble to get there. Is it yourself now who thinks you can ride in the wagon while the rest of us walk? It's many miles we've traveled today, and everyone is happy.
I've been getting the mean eye from some of the paws of the gals who've taken a fancy to me. But the gals liking me ain't what's got the old men all head up. They just know they ain't never gonna have the gold or be rich like me. Let one of them show me his fists and I'll whoop 'em all, I will. During the day, I'm seeing things new to me, and why I left was to do that. But at night, by the fire, I hear words and stories that are new to me. I like many of them. I may not like what we've been dealt, but I don't tell you how I sees it, and I don't want to hear how any of you sees it. Keep it to yourself.
Dear Diary, sometimes I wish Nicholas would think before he speaks. The whole camp grew excited when he announced he'd found a patch of greens not far from the trail. But I grew afraid. Luckily, I was able to hand off some sketches of butterfly milkweed and snow on the mountain plants I'd drawn earlier that day to a young girl rushing past me with her gathering basket. Bitte, Fräulein, I begged her, don't pick these. They are poisonous. As it turned out, the greens were not safe to eat. Mein lieber Mutter und Vater. Frau Keller tells us that she stores her fine china in bottles of cornmeal to keep them from breaking. And she hasn't lost a teacup yet. When you make the crossing, bury Brigitta's goblets in cornmeal, and they should stay safe. Don't sell them. They've come all the way from Germany, and it would be a shame to leave them behind. I worry that our party grows weary of Nicholas's advice. Today, he convinced them to wait until late in the day before hauling water. When some was finally found, it was muddy and tasted sehr schlecht. Oh, Nicholas had suggested a delay so he might complete some business. He can be so selfish.
How fearsome are the storms on the prairies! We suffer terror in our hearts, lest the cracks of thunder bring the whole world crashing down on us. All that separates us from a thorough drenching is a flimsy layer of canvas. Yesterday, we were afflicted with hailstones big as marbles. We had to stop and take shelter beneath the wagons for the sake of the little ones. The lightning presents us with an awesome spectacle. We never saw its like back home. I can only look in wonder as it darts its jagged paths over the vast prairie. Blessings and mercies daily attend us. We are making good progress to Oregon. I knew Oregon was a fair distance away, but I never dreamed it was this far away from home. How I miss my loved ones.
There's still much to do. I have been up all night with the sick. That wagon have measles. That family have fever. One member of our party hurt his hand changing wagon wheel. There is no time for rest. These people, they all need me. Sometimes my mouth misses the taste of Cajun cooking. We here, and there be no crawdads, no hot pepper, no okra. How can I make gumbo when there be no okra? I learned to make gumbo when I was on the plantation. Gumbo, African word mean put everything in pot and cook it up for some good eating. My Daniel in heaven, the good Lord took you away from me too soon. Wish you were here right now with me. You would know what to do, Daniel. I hear talk. I hear talk about whites not let me stay in Oregon. We step foot there someday soon. Blessed Mother of God, help me.
I know we do not all come from the same spiritual tradition, but I do wish we could, if not completely cease to travel on the Sabbath, at least stop more frequently to participate in religious services. I am inspired by the children. Their little legs must take twice my steps, yet a smile still traces their lips. I cannot say that if I stood at the start of this trail again and knew what I know now, that I would eagerly set out. But here, sitting here, I am overwhelmed with a powerful sense of accomplishment.
We passed the graves of an entire family, husband, wife, and 3 children, who most likely succumbed to disease. We have no idea what ailed them, but as the graves were fresh, we moved on quickly. Unfortunately, the sight of a new grave is not rare along the Oregon Trail. We are traveling hard. The terrain is unfriendly, and our spirits are low.
Let's see if this is cool enough to eat yet. There's been little meat, so I decided it was time to come up with a good recipe for rattlesnake. Oh, it's good. Just wait till you taste it. Jeff! Supper's ready whenever you are. My dear Ma and Pa, Jeff has had a change of heart about the Indians. He expected them to be savage, but the Indians we've met along the way have impressed him. They helped us find water for the oxen today and pointed out some wild plants that are safe for eating. I picked some for dinner. Some folks had some problems. Argument between a husband and a wife. Living on the trail can get people's nerves all jangled. But other folks helped them talk it through. I knew things would work out all right. That happens when folks really care about one another.
When I get to Oregon, I shall open a theater. My first play will tell of the epic journey made by the intrepid travelers on the Oregon Trail. I shall tell of the hardships suffered, of the heat, and the thirst, and the want of food. I shall tell of the noble struggles to overcome dreadful obstacles, and of those who died without ever seeing their dreamland. I find hot tea to be the most refreshing beverage. I cannot think what I would do without it. Would you like to take tea with me? You must always warm the pot before you make the tea. I like 2 scoops of tea, and the water must be boiling. Tea should always be drunk with a little milk. Would you care to try some?
I was trained by the finest doctor in Maryland, and he taught me everything worth knowing about sickness and medicines. There were many young women who envied my opportunities. I was more than his nurse. I was his confidant and friend. He begged me to stay in Maryland and help him with his practice. But how could I? Once married, his new wife was forever sashaying around the office, distracting us both from our work. She wasn't worthy of him at all. He could have done much better. I visited with some women after supper today. I should say tried to visit, because I could barely finish a sentence without some interruption. First, Mary's daughter needed a drink of water. Then Sarah's son had to be pulled out of the way of a horse. Then Esther's husband came by looking for her to mend his pants. And all the while, these women were stacking up dishes and banging their pots and pans, and I could scarcely make myself heard. Honestly, as if I didn't have better things to do with my time. No one really cares about me. No one understands. It's so hard to be a woman alone on this long, desolate trail. Sometimes I lie awake at night and cry, hearing a lone wolf's howl, and I just wish that I had one friend in the world.